Hello, this is Uneek Designs with 3dprodev.com. Tonight, I'll show you step by step on how I made this piece in Photoshop. Call this a Photoshop tutorial with a twist of a social commentary. So, most people, especially those who follow the NBA, are aware of what happened with the trade that would have sent point guard Chris Paul to the Lakers. Well, basically, Commissioner David Stern, who represents the owners, stepped in and blocked the trade from happening. The trade was already announced, and once blocked, it had a negative effect across the league. Especially, this didn't sit well with the players that were supposed to be traded, but didn't once the trade got blocked. Chris Paul later ended up getting traded to the LA Clippers. This situation had a really bad effect on the NBA, and it was the inspiration for my piece. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my images. So I got my main image. So this is pretty much everything I'll be working on and layering stuff on. Then I found a picture of Chris Paul and a picture of David Stern, thanks to Google. And basically, I'm actually going to drag these guys in. So I'm actually click this tab right here and just drag it out, and now I can just drag this image, drag it in here, and that's in there. And I don't want to save that, and let me get my David Stern image and drag that guy in, and there we go. So now we have our images on our main canvas. So what we want to do is scale these guys first. So I'm actually going to scale this to kind of match Pierce's body. I'm going to click this arrow right here, and on width I'll just type in a negative value, and that's going to flip my image around. I could actually, let me undo this. There's another way to do it. You just go to edit and transform and flip horizontally. So either or will work. I just like that way better. What we can do now is we actually are going to zoom in here, and we have to get rid of this crap around David Stern's head. So I'm going to go to my polygon lasso tool, and I'm going to just go ahead and click, and every time I click, it's going to draw a line around the image. It's actually drawing a selection. So alright, almost done. Just bear with me. Alright, gotta get this guy's double chin going on here. And alright, cool. So lasso's done. Now, if I go and hit delete right now, I should delete his head, and we don't want that. We actually want to delete what's around him. So I have to actually invert this selection. So I can go to select and inverse, and you see I usually use a hotkey, which is Shift Control I. So I could have hit that or just went under the menus. So I'm gonna inverse this guy. So let me zoom out and show you what's happening here. And you see that the heads right here and now encompassed everything. So it's actually going to get rid of everything outside of this selection. And that's what we want exactly to happen. So I hit delete on my keyboard, and boom. So now we just have the clean image of his head. I could have probably did a little better job. We'll tweak that later. So what I want to do now is just kind of position this guy kind of lining up with the head that's underneath, and we'll leave that there. And then we're gonna do the same exact thing for Chris Paul's head over here. So I'm actually gonna make this a little bigger. Zoom in. Get the lasso tool again and start cropping. And well, I'll keep his neck. We'll see how that goes, whether I use the neck in the background or I'll just use his neck. But I think I'll probably use his neck, which is going to give us a more realistic look. So same deal here. I have his head already selected, so I want to inverse the selection. So I will hit Control-Shift-I on my keyboard, hit delete, and bam, there's his head. So move this guy into place. Yep, and it looks like I missed something. So anytime in Photoshop, when you actually select something and your selection box actually is kind of bigger than your image, that means you didn't crop everything out. So I'm actually zoom out and just marquee select this right here and just hit delete. And watch when I pick his head again, it's going to be a tighter square around him. So I'll just move that into place, and that's looking good. So, all right, back to Stern. So what we have to do now is I actually want to match the skin tones a little better because, you know, obviously there's a difference in skin tones right now. So what I'll do is I will marquee select the Pierce's body right here. Go back in. All right, so we have this body and we want to get it closer to Stern's tone. So what I'll do is go to image and hue saturation. So that's where I'll go. And now I don't want to start shifting everything under the master because what happens is it'll actually change every color. Now we actually want to switch this to reds and that'll filter out just the red. So I'll be affecting just the reds in this selection. So once that's set up, I can start moving this. And actually, let me undo this because I have the wrong layer selected. So I'll select the background layer and try this again. So go to image, adjustments, and hue and saturation. Switch this to reds, and I'll start messing with the sliders. And you see while I'm doing this, nothing's really getting affected but his skin tone. The jersey's actually not changing. That's because we have the reds filter on. So it only affect the red channel. So that's looking a little better. It's not going to be perfect, but we might have to tweak this a little bit more. But for now, this will do. So I'll hit OK. And I'll zoom out a little bit. And now I will select his head. So what's happening here is this is not going to look right unless we have this shoulder part, this arm actually, in front, kind of in front of his blocking part of his face. So what we're going to do is actually take this arm right here, make a duplicate of it, and throw it on top of his face. So we'll actually go in the lasso tool again. And I want to get kind of close right here because this is the area that's going to be covering the face. So there we go. So I'm pretty tight in this area right here. But other than that, I really don't need to be too precise because it's going to go over the same background. This will make a little more sense once you actually see it happen. So now I have the selection. I want to go back to the base layer. And I'm actually hit Control and copy, and I will make a new layer. Oops, I made a group. So make a new layer and hit Control V, and I just pasted it. Well, looks like nothing's happened, but actually I have a duplicate arm. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take the head over here, and I'm gonna stick that under the arm, and now just drag it in. And you see that the head is actually now under this arm layer. And I'm actually just going to name this layer arm. And I will name this head. It's actually a good practice to name all your layers, especially when you start having 10, 20 layers. It makes it pretty easy to actually locate what you need to locate. So, and I'm actually going to give this guy a bigger head, make it a little bit more comical. So yeah, looks like Stern's ready to kick some ass, huh? So got this. Now we want to change this Pierce to Stern. All right, so the problem is I can throw some text, but if I do, that's not going to look right since Pierce is already back here. So what I actually have to do first is remove this, and then I'll go ahead and add the name Stern in the back of the jersey. So I'll make a new layer. I'll name this Cover Up. And I'm actually just going to sample the color right here and go with this green right here. So what I did is went to my color picker and just clicked on the image, and whatever layer you have selected, it actually picked that color. So, and I just want to paint out Pierce. Simple as that. So I went to my brush tool and just gonna paint this guy out. I'm actually switch my brush to a solid brush without any feathering. And if you hit your bracket, left bracket and right bracket, you actually make your brush size bigger and smaller. So you see that my brush is actually moving, and I'm actually not changing it through the master diameter. I'm actually using the bracket keys. So that's kind of pretty useful to change your brush size. So I just paint out the name Pierce. And, you know, of course, I could have went out here and did a better job at painting it. You know, I could have actually painted these highlights, the shadows, to actually make it look like, you know, follow this. But for time's sake and for this tutorial's sake, I'm going to just leave it how it is. What I will do is I will filter this and give it a little Gaussian blur. And with the Gaussian blur, it's going to kind of break up this kind of a square shape that we have. And I went too much, so let me back this up a little bit. All right, there we go. So hit OK, and let's throw the name on here. So I'll just get my text tool, I'll drag marquee, and I will type Stern. I actually have to highlight this and change the color up here. So I'll go with the white. And you see how this is actually sitting under the arm, so I would just want to drag this layer all the way to the top. And there we go. Now that we have Stern, I'll actually rotate this. And just to give it a little bit more realism, I actually want to do a little bit of a drop shadow. But I'm not going to do a drop shadow. I actually do an outer glow. And I will actually change this color, the black, and change my blending mode to multiply. So once I did that, it's actually going to give us outer glow, but it's actually going to give us a nice soft shadowed effect. And I'll put the size up a little bit. There we go. So that's looking fine. And I'm actually going to tweak this opacity and make it a little bit. There we go. So bring this to about 45. Hit OK. Now this looks good, but we actually want to give it a little bit of perspective. So what I'll do is I have to warp this. Before I warp the text, I will have to make it a rasterized image. So I'll go here and I will click rasterize type. So now this is a raster image and I can apply more filters to it. I go to image and give me a second here and transform and perspective. So with perspective, I'll give this a little bit of perspective. All right, so what I'm gonna try to do now is actually get this head, Stern's head, to actually match the body a little closer. So what I'll do first is actually I'll scale it up a little bit and kind of move it into place and drop it down a little bit. And you see how this actually is showing up right here, this break in the picture. That's actually because our arm, we didn't crop enough out. So what I'll do is I'll take my lasso tool again and just kind of select this little piece of background right here and hit delete. There we go. And actually looks like we missed just a little bit of it. All right, there we go, looking better. So now we have that, and I actually want to erase a little bit of his head to kind of blend in the back of the player's neck that we have behind here. So what I'll do is hit the eraser tool, but we want to change our opacity. So basically, it's not going to be full strength, and it's actually going to let us blend a little better. So. And actually I have to be on the head layer, so there we go. So you see how it's actually just taken away slightly, and the more I do it, the more it's actually getting erased. So you see how, you know, this did a pretty good job blending it. And that's looking a little better. So we'll zoom out. And there we go. So what we want to do is, now I kind of want to drop a little bit of a shadow to kind of push his head back on the arm. So I'll take this arm and I'll duplicate the layer. And I will actually hit Control and left click, and you see how it actually, how I kind of selected. you see how it made a selection around my layers. So that's exactly what I wanted. So I'll actually come here and get a black color right here, and I'll make a new layer. Oops, didn't want to do that. So I'll hit Alt and Backspace, and I'll fill this with black. So I'm not going to use all of this, but I will. I'm actually just going to use a little bit of it. So I'll delete that. Delete this part. So I'm deleting everything that I don't need and giving me just the information that I need, that I want. So, and I haven't got rid of everything. There we go. So I have a little piece right here. Marquee select this, and it's gone. All right, so I have this little chunk right here. What I'm gonna do is actually slide it under the arm, and then I'll just move it up ever so slightly. So you see that I have this shadow right here going on. That's exactly what I wanted. And I'm actually going to erase some of it. So I'll bring my opacity back to 100%. There we go. So it's looking better. Now, I actually want to give this a softer effect. So I will, let me move this up a little bit. Do a Gaussian blur on it. So image, adjustments, and I'm sorry, it's a filter. So it's a filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Because shadows, they're not really that hard in real life. So we'll want to slide this up again. And you see it's giving us a nice soft shadow. And I'm actually going to drop this here. And with my settings on the layer, I'll just do a multiply. And I will bring the opacity down. Now, I mean, it's not a huge deal, but it's those little details in a picture that will actually make it seem a lot more realistic. So, there we go. So, Stern looks pretty much like he's ready to block somebody's shot. Now, let's kind of turn our attention to Chris Paul. So, alright, so what I'm trying to do now is the same thing for Paul's body. So I will be selecting his skin and applying a filter. We actually don't want this basketball to be in there, so we'll actually have to mask it out. So first thing I'm going to do is get my marquee selection tool and just drag over the skin tone. Hit Alt to take away this little chunk of area right here because we don't want that affected. And now we're going to get the marquee select or the polygon lasso tool out and just drag marquee select this basketball. So I'll hit Alt. So the reason I'm doing this is I don't want the basketball to get affected by the changes that we're going to do on the skin tone. And since it's pretty much a close proximity of the color, it's going to get affected. And that's why we're masking it out. Okay, we have that area. Let's get this little area right here behind his hand. So you see how that I messed up a couple times? I just hit backspace to delete each line, and actually I have to do that again. So with backspace, you can delete each segment of selection that you created. So I'll just double click, and I have this kind of selected out of the selection. So I'll go back, zoom out a little bit, image, adjustments, hue, saturation, and it's time to tweak again. So I'll go to reds, and I'll try to match the hue of his face a little better. I'm just trying to find the right hue. There we go. That's it. So hit OK. And if we need that, we can do that filter again, because it actually caps off at a certain value. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll just run the same filter again. So do the hue saturation again, and actually I want to be on reds. So there we go. And what we can do as well is play with the face values on them. So that looks pretty good. What I'll do now is select his face, and I'll do the same hue and saturation. Since the face already cropped out, we don't have to worry about making another selection. And actually, let's play with the master since so that looks a little bit better. All right, next thing we want to do is take Paul's head and actually match him a little bit better to the body. And I want to make his head a little bigger as well, give him more of a cartoon type of feel to the picture. So I'm going to just scale this up a little bit and kind of put this into place. So let's actually... I'm actually turn off the layer right here and just kind of examine what's going on in this guy's head. So we obviously have more neck in this image, but that's all right. What we'll do is we'll crop a little bit of the neck, and that should kind of give us what we want. So what I'll do is I'll turn his head off, and I'm actually going to start tracing this area right here. So I'm tracing this with the polygon lasso tool. Alright, so I'll actually inverse this and bring his head back. And I want to just kind of make this a little bigger so my head doesn't get decapitated. There we go. So we'll try that again. and this is fitting a little better. But obviously this is getting chopped right here, so we don't want that. We'll have to actually compensate a little bit and leave more of his neck there. So try it again. There we go. That's looking a lot better. So and what we can do is get the erase tool out. Oops, a little too big right here on the diameter, so just bring this back down a small number. Just kind of round this out a little bit. There we go. So same deal with the arm, right? The head is on top of this, but we actually want the arm on top of the head or over the head. So we'll have to select the arm. So we'll come down here and we'll actually turn off Paul's head for a second and just do a quick selection around the elbow area. All right. So select that. We'll control copy, or alternatively, we can just go to edit and copy. So I just do control C, but going through the menus will work just as fine. So control copy, new layer, control V, it's pasted. So we want to drop the arm over the head, which is right here. And like I said, this is why it's good to name all your layers. And there we go, see? So we have that going on. Alright, so here's our image, and it's looking almost completed, but I actually want to tweak this hand a little bit and make it seem that he's actually getting a little bit closer to blocking the shot than he is currently. So what I actually have to do is go back and tweak this arm. So currently we didn't really crop this out that precisely. So I'll actually zoom in on here, and I'll actually want to get the rest of probably about from the elbow. I'm actually just going to do the whole arm just to be safe. So just getting the good old lasso tool again and carefully clicking around the arm. And I just did that by holding space, and my cursor will turn into the hand, and that will let me pan up my image. I'm gonna backspace a little bit to delete my last couple lines. Come around the fingers. And actually, if you just drag the cursor into the corner, you actually move it without having to pan, but you can also pan. Pan actually moves it a little better. So backspace. All right. So there we go. We have this selected. We're going to inverse this selection and delete. Of course, looks like not much has happened, but now if we see the selection, we have a clean selection around the arm. So what we'll do is we'll drag this pivot point to where we want this to move from. So right about the shoulder area. And let's kind of stretch his arm out a little bit. And what we want to do is actually, since we really don't want to alter this shoulder area, we'll just want to take it away from the selection. Alright, so we're getting this arm kind of into place, and I'm actually going to tweak it a little bit more. So move this pivot point. And let's actually zoom in here and kind of bring this back towards the armpit and kind of match that up again. And let me move the pivot point back here. And scale up some more. There we go. So that's looking a little better. Now we have this arm correct, but we actually have to get rid of this background now. So we'll actually turn off all the arms and anything in the way of this background. We'll come back to the background layer. And we'll actually want to paint this out. So the easiest and best way to do that is we'll actually clone some of the background to kind of cover this hand up. So what I'll do is Alt and left click, and what that's going to do is actually source this area of the image wherever I'm clicking. And we actually want a little bit of feathering on our brush. So I just went to my brush settings and got a little bit of a feathered brush. So I have to be kind of careful here because I just want to get the areas that I want to clone. If I start kind of cloning too much, it'll start cloning the hand again, and we definitely don't want that. So what I'm doing is selecting a point near the hand and just coming down on it and kind of just masking it out again. So I continuously reposition my source by hitting Alt and left click and coming back and painting over. And we really only have to paint this top part of the hand because the rest is actually going to get covered up by our hand. So we really just don't want to do unnecessary work here. And good thing for us is it's not really it's kind of a blurry background. So, you know, if it's not perfect, it's not going to be really standing out that much. Okay, so let's put our arm back in and see. Yep. So that looks pretty good right there. So let's zoom out and turning our other arm in. Okay, so I had 2 copies of the arm, and what I'll do is I'll just delete this one. It was kind of throwing me off, so let me zoom back in, and we have to delete the rest of this area. So let me turn off the arm and kind of keep doing what we're doing. Now I have to go back to my base layer. So like 90% of all problems that you're gonna, well, I shouldn't say 90, but a majority of them, if you're ever doing something and it's not working, a lot of times it's just you're not on the right layer. So it's kind of simple, but you know, that's something that you constantly have to check is what layer am I working in. So let's okay, so that looks pretty good. This should be covered up. Yep, it is. So there is our extended hand. And this is looking pretty good. I'm actually just going to do a couple more tweaks. And we're going to check out what I did. Probably put a tattoo on his arm and maybe something on the ball. Other than that, this is pretty much done. So let me do those changes, and I'll see you guys in a little bit. Okay, I'm back. So obviously there are a couple of changes since you guys last seen the image. Let me turn off the tattoos and kind of go over some of these changes. So first thing that I changed was the head to body proportion. So initially, I didn't want to go with a cartoonish feel for it, a comical feel, but then I switched my mind and I went with a more realistic look. So the heads and the bodies actually have correct anatomical proportions. I also put Laker deal on the basketball right here, just kind of helped drive home the narrative a little bit better. I also made the skin tones match a little bit better for both players. And let me remove this turn and this cover up. So when we first started, we had, let me just zoom in here. So when we first started, we had Pierce, and you know, we covered it up with kind of like this green blob, which it was okay, but you know, it was kind of a quick approach. So I actually, with my Wacom tablet, I came back and I painted kind of the folds in a little bit better. I still could have did a better job, but for the size that you're going to be viewing this at, I think it did the job. So let's put the name back on here. And I actually kind of tweaked this a little bit more. I try to make it read more as the name was actually sitting on the folds of the fabric. And let me turn back the tattoos. So I know I didn't cover exactly how I created the tattoos, but I was actually trying to keep this tutorial under a certain time limit. I will have a separate tutorial just on doing tattoos in Photoshop and putting them over skin and making them look realistic. So you guys stay tuned for that one. So let's actually break down what the tattoos are on Stern's body. So I do have a Laker tattoo, Laker hater tattoo on his right forearm, and that was just created with some Photoshop text and some layer styles. Then I have some flames, which were all done in Photoshop, painted with my Wacom tablet, and so were the stars tying in this elbow area. And then we come to this MOB, money over basketball tattoo, which I just decided to change the acronym for. Then I have some barbed wire over his right shoulder with the name Stern on his right shoulder as well. And I put this piece in here in his upper right back, which says "Got the game on lock," picture of a lock, and the 4 dates of the NBA lockouts. And then I got "Killing the Game" and "Tattoo Tears," followed by a ESPN tattoo on the back of his neck. So that's pretty much it for the changes that I made while I paused the video. So I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial and really understood the material. Hopefully you will be able to take this information and the concepts you learned tonight and apply them to your own work. I definitely would like to see what you guys come up with. If you want to stop by and say hey, or just have some questions on the information I covered tonight, you can reach me on my website, www.3dprodev.com, via the contact section, or you can post your comments or questions on my YouTube page. Thanks for watching.